Mafia. A word that evokes secrecy, power, and violence. They are not just criminals, but masters of strategy, business, and power manipulation. Throughout American history, the Mafia was not merely a criminal organization, but a hidden force with deep influence over politics, economy, and society. They controlled industries, dominated casinos, smuggled illegal alcohol during Prohibition, and even influenced national elections. The story of the American Mafia is a journey of men who rose from poverty to build empires in the shadows. A tale of power, intrigue, and inevitable collapse. On June 30th, 1931, in a Chicago courtroom, one of the most shocking trials in American history was taking place. The main defendant, Al Capone, the notorious crime boss who ruled the city through violence and money. But ironically, the authorities could not convict him for his bloody crimes. Instead, they brought him down on tax evasion charges. This trial marked not only the fall of a crime empire, but also showcased the US government's strategy in combating the Mafia during Prohibition. A period when the American Mafia rose from poor immigrant slums to become a massive organized crime powerhouse. At the end of the 19th century, America witnessed a massive wave of immigration from Ireland, Italy, and the Jewish communities. These immigrants arrived in America with hopes of a better life, but instead, they faced discrimination and were forced into poor slums like 5 Points in New York. They lived in horrible conditions, struggling with poverty, unemployment, and prejudice from Native Americans. The chance to escape this harsh life was slim, pushing many to turn to criminal organizations to survive. These neighborhoods quickly became hotspots for criminal activity. From small street gangs specializing in theft, extortion, and loan sharking to larger organizations engaged in smuggling and running brothels. The criminal groups within immigrant communities not only provided jobs for their members, but also created a protection network against law enforcement and rival gangs. Over time, these immigrants didn't just participate in crime. They built powerful gangs, laying the foundation for what would later become the American Mafia. The first gangs quickly emerged. The Irish had the Dead Rabbits, while Anglo-Americans had the Bowery Boys. One notable figure was John Old Smoke Morrissey, a bare-knuckle boxer who became a gambling kingpin and later entered politics. But it wasn't just the Irish. The Jewish and Italian communities also built their own criminal networks. Monk Eastman, a Jewish gang leader, controlled gambling, prostitution, and drug trafficking. Meanwhile, Paul Kelly, an Italian mobster, founded the 5 Points Gang, which trained infamous criminals like Lucky Luciano. Criminal groups from Italy, especially the Camorra and Cosa Nostra from Sicily, brought their sophisticated laws and structures to America. As gangs grew stronger, the power struggles became bloodier than ever. In 1920, the US government enacted Prohibition, hoping to reduce crime and social vices. But instead of achieving its goal, this ban became a golden opportunity for the American Mafia to seize control of the illegal alcohol market, making them more powerful than ever. As legal bars were forced to shut down, the Mafia quickly filled the void with speakeasies, secret bars protected by gangs. They controlled the entire supply chain, from production and distribution to retail sales, raking in millions of dollars each year. Beyond bootlegging, the Mafia used underground smuggling routes through the Canadian border and the Caribbean to illegally import alcohol. They bribed officials and police, ensuring that law enforcement either turned a blind eye or even protected their operations. With rapidly growing wealth, these criminal organizations expanded into gambling, prostitution, loan sharking, and money laundering. Territory wars between rival gangs erupted violently, marked by assassinations, bombings, and internal purges. Cities like Chicago and New York became bloody battlefields for mafia factions. During this period, several mafia kingpins rose to power. Al Capone, the King of Chicago, controlled hundreds of illegal distilleries, speakeasies, and casinos. Bugs Moran, Capone's archenemy, led the Northsiders gang. Arnold Rothstein, a Jewish mafia boss, dominated gambling and money laundering. Charles "Lucky" Luciano laid the foundation for the modern mafia organization. Bloody purges became frequent. One of the most infamous incidents was the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in 1929. Al Capone's men, disguised as police officers, executed 7 members of the Northsiders gang. This was not just a purge, but a warning to anyone who dared challenge Capone. The massacre shocked the public and became one of the most notorious acts of violence in American mafia history. Another shocking assassination was the death of Arnold Rothstein in 1928, caused by a gambling debt dispute. Rothstein was not just a mafia kingpin, but also the mastermind behind sports-fixing scandals and the operator of a highly sophisticated underground financial network. His death triggered a fierce power struggle within New York's criminal underworld, creating an opportunity for new forces to rise. During this same period, Lucky Luciano narrowly escaped death in an ambush attempt. Kidnapped, beaten, and stabbed multiple times, Luciano miraculously survived, earning him the infamous nickname Lucky. This incident did not weaken him. Instead, it strengthened his determination to reform and consolidate mafia power. He realized that if the criminal organization was to survive, the old, outdated models had to be abandoned and replaced with a more sophisticated and efficient system. In 1931, a major shift occurred within the American Mafia. Lucky Luciano, recognizing that internal conflicts were hindering the growth of the organization, decided to take action. He overthrew the old boss, Giuseppe Masseria, and later eliminated Salvatore Maranzano, the man who proclaimed himself as the boss of bosses. After eliminating 2 of the most powerful bosses, Lucky Luciano did not rush to seize all power, but instead began a reform campaign. He understood that bloody rivalries between mafia families only weakened the organization and made them an easy target for law enforcement. Therefore, Luciano gathered the most influential mafia leaders from New York, Chicago, and other cities to establish a new system aimed at ensuring stability. He founded the Commission, a council made up of the most powerful crime bosses. Instead of a single supreme leader, this system functioned like a corporation where decisions were made collectively. Each mafia family operated independently, but had to follow the common rules set by the Commission, minimizing conflicts and maximizing profits. This structural change transformed the American Mafia into a more organized, efficient, and low-profile network. Thanks to this strategy, Luciano not only solidified his position, but also laid the foundation for the operational model of the American Mafia for decades to come. However, not everyone could escape the grasp of the law. Al Capone, no matter how infamous and powerful, was ultimately caught by the authorities. Ironically, Capone was not arrested for murder or bootlegging, but for tax evasion. In 1931, he was sentenced to 11 years in prison, marking the decline of the Chicago Mafia empire. In 1933, the US government realized that prohibition had only increased crime, so it decided to repeal the law. Although alcohol was legalized, the Mafia continued to thrive, fueled by other illegal operations. Losing the bootlegging business did not weaken the Mafia. Instead, it pushed them to diversify into new, more sophisticated and profitable ventures. Mafia families quickly invested in both legal and illegal gambling, running casinos in Las Vegas, Cuba, and even Europe. They gained control over other lucrative industries, such as construction, transportation, and infiltrated labor unions to ensure a constant flow of money into their syndicates. One of the most profitable operations the Mafia engaged in was loan sharking. With enormous profits generated by extortionate interest rates, the Mafia could finance other criminal activities while also maintaining long-term control over debtors, especially small business owners and corrupt officials. Additionally, the Mafia expanded into the drug trade, despite initial resistance from some bosses who saw it as too risky. However, the massive profits proved irresistible, and many Mafia families eventually entered the heroin and cocaine trade, sourcing supplies from Italy and South America. With bootlegging gone, the Mafia quickly shifted its focus to gambling, loan sharking, drug trafficking, and labor union control. Las Vegas, with its legalized gambling, became the Mafia's new goldmine. Seizing the explosion of the casino industry, Mafia families secretly funded major casinos, pouring money into luxury hotels, using them as fronts for massive money laundering operations. Beyond Las Vegas, the Mafia expanded its influence to cities like Atlantic City, Miami, and even Havana before Fidel Castro's government overthrew the Batista regime. They exploited every legal loophole to manipulate economic activities, creating a power system so deep-rooted that even the government struggled to completely dismantle it. With enormous profits from these operations, the Mafia continued to strengthen its position, maintaining its power and control over crucial sectors of American society. The Mafia didn't just control crime. It infiltrated politics and business. They bribed police officers and politicians, dominated labor unions and the transportation industry. There were even rumors that the Mafia influenced US presidential elections. However, during the 1980s and 1990s, the FBI launched intense crackdowns, gradually weakening the Mafia. Still, some crime families survived, adapting to more sophisticated operations. Although its golden age has faded, the Mafia has left a lasting legacy in popular culture. The iconic image of mob bosses is forever immortalized in films and novels, from The Godfather to Goodfellas. Despite the government's relentless efforts, the Mafia continues to exist, proving that organized crime has never truly disappeared. Even after decades, the Mafia remains a part of American and global history. The lessons from the rise and fall of these criminal empires not only help law enforcement understand organized crime, but also reflect societal, economic, and political changes. The Mafia is more than just a criminal organization. It is a cultural phenomenon, influencing films, literature, and even urban legends. The FBI's crackdowns have dented the Mafia's power, but they have not eradicated it. These syndicates have adapted, evolved, and continue to operate in the shadows. The story of the Mafia is not just a tale of crime. It is a story of power, ambition, and the never-ending struggle between law and the underworld. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with more exciting videos.